Laura, welcome to Podcastina.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you so much for coming. How's it going with your book?
You know what? Things have been good. It has been really exciting to go into bookstores and see this beautiful bright blue cover. It's been really cool. Thanks.
Of course, congratulations. It's such needed material in this day and age, and I'm so excited to talk to you about all things relationships and improving upon them. And then, of course, this absolute flood on the internet. It feels like a reckoning almost of women standing up for themselves and, raising the bar, hopefully, at the end of the day.
Yeah, I always wonder if it's just my algorithm or if, but I mean, the news seems to be telling me that really there is this reckoning happening and it is not just my feed. But sometimes it's easy to question myself. It is my curated feed, right?
Well, we must have similar feeds. So I'll start with a question that was gained quite a bit of traction, I think, starting last summer, and people are still talking about it. I would love your take. Is having a boyfriend embarrassing?
I love that question. I love it. And I feel like sometimes, yeah. There is this other thing that I hear online a lot, which I love, which is sometimes the most outwardly critical or challenging people who are challenging norms and asking for better. That is a clue that maybe behind the scenes, if they are partnered, they probably have a higher quality partnership or are partnered with somebody who also is being critical of culture and challenging the norms. And having worked in the field of relationships and domestic equity for the last several years and been really immersed in it, I will say that's a good clue, but it's not always true. So I would say that in a world where I think there is a reckoning happening, I think that collectively we've decided we want better. Sometimes it can feel like maybe I don't know, it can be a little bit embarrassing to be like, oh, I followed the path and did what I was supposed to do. And now I have this, I live the husband, 2 kids and a house lifestyle. I don't want people to make assumptions about me. I guess that's what I should say is I want people to understand just from looking at me, just from outside, that I am also challenging things and my partner and I are challenging things. Because if you fit the norm from the outside, it's judging a book by its cover.
Absolutely. And I don't ever mean to pathologize being in a heterosexual relationship. Like, I'm single, I'm dating, I want to be partnered, I want a family. And so I think that maybe the root of that article and that question came from this sense of, oh, well, men on a whole are acting, there's this red pill movement and this weird manosphere thing going on. And so when we see that and we take it in, the embarrassment is just coming from, well, I'm trying to signal that the person that I'm with and that I'm looking for is nowhere near that kind of mentality, and how insane that their solution to singleness seems to be to dig their heels in and hate on women. And it's like, what are you saying? Like, do you want a relationship or don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. It is an interesting moment because studies show or reinforce kind of what we've seen, which is there was a peak of, I believe it was Gen X. It was sometime like adult in between 25 and 45, people who were surveyed about their opinions on equity within the household. There was the height in like the late 90s, early 2000s. And it's tanked since. A lot of men were totally game for that 20 years ago. And now the young people and the young boys that are being surveyed are saying, actually, it's this red pill thing. It's like, actually, I think that everyone has their specific place in the household. And yeah, there's this entitlement, and it's really loud, and it's all over YouTube and Reddit and all those other places. So it's a little bit, to me, it's a little bit alarming. And I hear a lot from women of, we should decenter men. That's like the buzz phrase. And so I think part of that, like, is it embarrassing to have a boyfriend or have a husband? Is this worry, at least for me, I worry I'm being perceived as centering men or trying to be attractive to men. And then the caricature of men right now is this red pill. So it's like, yeah, I don't want to be wrapped up in that. I don't think anyone really wants to be wrapped up in that.
No, me neither. And I think that like it's so crazy because at the end of the day, I just want everybody to like have what they want and what feels authentic and safe to them. And this is like anecdotal, but one of my dearest friends, her husband is like a saint. Like he is just the epitome of, oh my God, you got a good one. And I was speaking with him recently, and he had never even heard of red pill. He didn't even know what I was talking about. And I was like, you angel. So I think it's like, it's also a little bit of a product of people being chronically online. But the issue is so many people, Gen X and millennials and certainly below, like we are chronically online. So the exposure to these thought patterns and these schools of thought, like they seem to be everywhere, and they definitely have infiltrated people who are dating and who are off, in the market still, so to speak. So it's kind of hard to avoid it. And I had like what felt like a little bit of an epiphany recently where I was like, what is up with all these manosphere people talking about declining birth rates? Because that's their like latest obsession, is the declining birth rate, and how there's not like a replacement number. And the thing is, like, we do have enough babies globally for replacement. It's just certain countries where there's not a replacement number. So it's, first of all, not true. Second of all, the thing that bothers me about the conversation about declining birth rate so much is you don't hear the people pushing that idea talking about how we should make it so much more accessible and affordable for women to have kids on their own. They never talk about how if a woman is single but she wants children, she should have better access to IVF and better access to egg freezing and sperm banks, all of that. It's never about that. It's always about like the men wanting to have the baby. So I go, is this really about babies, or is this just about controlling women's bodies?
That's a really good point. Because if it was about having babies, then any kind of family structure would be fine, but it's not. Yeah, to your point, the conversation around that just seems to be about controlling women's bodies and the pursuit. Like you said, like if we look globally, there's also, all sorts of racism and all sorts of things happening there. But also, as a parent myself, I know we would not have another child for many reasons, but a lot of that is the fact that our society is deeply anti-family. Like there's it's incredibly hard to find a place to bring my kids that they're not unwelcome. It's very, very expensive to have children. We don't have reliable access to healthcare. Wages are at a halt. Housing is very expensive. A lot of the people, myself included, that talk about, do you want another kid? Do you want to become a parent? The reality of what that actually means and how safe and secure we feel bringing another life into the world is, I know for us, we couldn't provide a certain quality of life. And I don't think that's good for my existing children or for my husband and I, or for this potential imaginary future child.
Yeah, it's just so exhausting to hear about it. And then that part of the conversation never really comes into play.
Right.
So I would love to talk about these kinds of, there's been a few incidents in the news recently that I'm sure you and I have both come across that are part of what we're referring to when we say the reckoning. And the first one I want to talk about that just happened is Cher going on Dax Shepard's show and kind of calling out, if anyone doesn't know the story, during the episode, Cher made a joke that Kristen deserves better and that she's definitely the better half. And Dax's response to it was, oh, well, you know, can you name someone? Like, can you tell me who would be better for a husband for her than me? And Cher just went, ugh, well, I guess I trust her judgment. And it turned into this big pop culture moment of examining a very public marriage. And I would love to hear your thoughts on what all that meant.
I thought that was fascinating. I have been following them for a while. And a couple of years ago, shared some of the articles and interviews that they had where they were talking about their relationship. And I will preface this by the fact that they have been very public about not like saying, my relationship is not ideal. Like, please do not think that our relationship is one that you should aspire to. So I think that's important context. And I agree with them. I agree very much. Everything that I have learned about them and their relationship and the stuff that's public of how high conflict it has been since the beginning, how they speak to each other in a manner that is not always very complimentary, especially him to her. They're very famously a couple who has been together for a long time, and they're on the podcast together sometimes. But it is not personally a relationship I would want to be in or feel comfortable in. And I appreciate, because Dax Shepard is so, you know, he's always like unfiltered. I'm just a guy. This is just who I am. To have Cher meet that energy with such a direct comment. And every person, I shouldn't gender this, every person I know who talks and speaks and behaves like Dax Shepard does publicly often is very sensitive behind closed doors. And I am just really curious what was the fallout of this being so public and what is happening behind closed doors. That's my question. What was your reaction?
That's a great question. I think that, like, my initial reaction was, oh my God, I can't believe they're airing this out and that they wouldn't edit it. And then, of course, Cher, who's like feminist icon, would be calling it out like that. I was like grateful that she called it out. And also, I do think it's like a point of vulnerability. Like, I do want to give them credit for being so public about their relationship and everything that comes along with it. But it also is like, oh, let's shine a lens on, is this how husbands should be talking to their wives? Is this kind of treading into humiliation territory?
And okay, so I have only seen some of the clips. So I appreciate you giving a little bit more context. Didn't he say something about her, like called her like a pretty princess, or like, oh, everybody thinks Kristen's so perfect? What do you remember what he said?
I can't quote it, but it was something like that. He was kind of deflecting and joking when Cher brought that up to, I think, make light of it. But it was done in a way that kind of highlighted that, like, I think he wants people to think that he holds her on a pedestal, but I don't know that that's necessarily true. And I'm speculating when I say that.
Yeah. It's interesting that you call it vulnerability. And I could see that they put it out there. I love reality TV.
Me too.
And I think, like, let's put this under the umbrella of like reality entertainment. I think that as long as they're okay putting it out there, it does create a really interesting way for us to talk about our own relationships. And like, my husband and I love reality TV. We watch it together. And it's really great because sometimes there will be a sort of similar situation that we've been into, and maybe the people on TV handle it totally differently, or we will see maybe something that is not so great reflected back. So sometimes we will see something that is not like, I will see like an ugly behavior of mine reflected back at me. And it gives you the opportunity to sort of reflect. And so, like, let's pick apart what happened here. Clearly, he felt hurt by this accusation that in a partnership, he was the problem. And his reaction was to, it seemed like, to jab at her. And I, like, this is not something that they have said publicly, but it is reminiscent of times where I have seen in a couple an abusive partner say, like, no one's going to love you the way I'm going to love you.
Yes, me too.
So that vibe was alarming.
Agreed. Anecdotally, I've seen it happen in friendships. I've had it happen in relationships that I had when I was like much younger, where if you just kind of break down a woman's self-esteem, then that kind of like tricks her into staying.
Yes. Okay. You say that too. And this is the thing that really got me about their very public conversations about their relationship is, I'm not an expert on them, but at one point, Dax and Kristen had a conversation where I think Kristen said, I really liked him. And he was telling me like, kind of like, I'm no good for you. I really want to be in an open relationship. And if you won't do that, then we can't be together. And they had like a super high conflict beginning to their relationship where the way she talked about it reminded me of times where I've seen friends like really lose their self-worth and kind of feel like, oh, I have to make major sacrifices in order to have this thing, to have this relationship or be with this person. And yeah, it creates an imbalance from the start of like constantly in pursuit of validation from this person. And that's, I don't think that if your relationship is established on that, I don't know how successful you probably could ever be in breaking that pattern.
Yeah, I think that anyone listening to this who's maybe single should key into that, like maybe take it as a red flag that when someone is warning you up top and laying the groundwork of how they're going to be problematic, they're kind of doing it in a way to be like, well, I told you. And then when that problematic behavior starts surfacing, to be like, well, I was honest with you and you chose this. And so I think it should serve as a warning when someone is telling you how problematic they're going to be when you're at the beginning of a relationship, which is supposed to be the best part.
That's a good point. And I feel like when I was incredibly young and, dating, I would take that as almost a challenge. Like if someone was like, I'm no good, like, oh, I would see that as like the whole, I can fix him.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just having fun. I'm not high maintenance. I'm just chill. And very quickly, I came to realize that it was actually as toxic and negative as they told me it was going to be.
Oh, 1,000%. I think you probably saw this one too. I would imagine a million people sent this to you, but there was a viral video right after Christmas of a woman who bought her husband an Xbox and then gave him the silent treatment because he bought her a butter dish.
Oh, I think I saw that and I think I scrolled past. Sometimes when I see people that I know and follow cover the same thing over and over again, I'm like, I know that's going to raise my blood pressure. Like I can't even. So, okay. So he bought her a butter dish. Oh, it was the white, like porcelain one. I see. Yes. She got him an Xbox.
And then she gave him the silent treatment. And of course, the comments were just, they were like, why did you give him this win? Like, not only does he have an Xbox, but now you're not even bothering him while he gets to play with the Xbox because you're mad at him about the butter dish. And everyone was like, don't even post this unless this is you telling us that you're ending the relationship. And people were like, don't involve us in this.
Oh man. Okay, I have conflicting feelings about this, and the comment sections are always messy. What do you think is going on when somebody posts that?
I bet that she thought that it would be funny and that she was probably just trying to be silly and complain about something in her marriage, not make it into a divorce announcement. But there's no patience with people in the comment section anymore. And they're all, and this is fair, like sick of don't tell us about how problematic your partner is and then just do nothing about it. Like, we don't want to see this. This is horrible. We see it as the red flag that it likely is.
Yeah. That's always the question in my mind is, why would you post this? And then once you see your partner getting dragged, why do you leave it up?
Right.
And that's like, it's a really interesting, like, social experiment, thought experiment. And it does seem, a lot of times you see in the comment section, they're like, you don't know our relationship. You're taking this out of context. But everyone has to understand that the internet, most people are not clicking through and looking and analyzing and evaluating the rest of your relationship. All they're seeing is the 30-second clip that you shared that's now gotten 15 million views. And yeah, I agree. I think that people are sick and tired of laughing at that, because it's like, those are like the 1950s jokes that are like, isn't it so funny that my partner is totally not invested in me? Isn't it funny that they don't know anything about me? And then it's like, har, isn't it so funny that my wife is always on my case? She's not satisfied with anything. There's nothing funny about it. If you try to explain the joke, you can't, because there's no joke. It bothers me. It does bother me that those continue to be posted.
It bothers me as well. And I think the comment section just proves, again, I keep coming back to this word, that it's like a reckoning, but everybody's patience for this stuff is just, it's gone. It crescendoed and women are over it. And that's why we're getting the decenter men and like the 4B in more extreme cases of women just completely being like, I will not involve myself with men romantically at all. And it feels like we're just in this super weird space where I'm waiting to see what the fallout from all of that is. I know what I hope it is. I hope it's that men get it together, the problematic ones, and that the ones who are not problematic hold their hand and guide them, because I think the problematic ones, they don't listen to women. It doesn't matter how much I get on the internet and podcast about it and have on experts that know what they're talking about. Those men are just not going to receive feedback from women because they already think that we're lower than them.
Yeah. Okay. I have a question if you have seen this. Speaking of the fallout of this, I have started to see content from men, and it's like, nobody ever talks about how hard it is to go from this to this. And it's him in a family. And then it's like him in his apartment all alone. And it's like, obviously you're watching this and you're like, oh, wow, what could have happened to this guy? That's so sad. And then I've seen two separate accounts now. It's men who cheated and they lost their family. I think it's really fascinating that now there is, I don't know, I can't call it a movement yet because I've only seen two accounts, but they're getting a lot of airtime with people. Will there be a reactionary content from all of the women who are, the divorce glow up, the second act, whatever? Is there going to be this movement of men maybe who are saying, it could swing in a positive direction, fingers crossed, of like, wow, I need to reflect. What the hell happened? I I would hope that's the direction it goes. Realistically, I don't know about that. I think this guy's just getting his bills paid by the rage. It feels like rage bait.
That's true. It does. I wonder if you're referring to, it was a video, I think it was on Christmas morning, where a guy was like, she took the baby in the middle of the night. She took the TV.
Yes.
And everyone's going, what did you do? Can you give us more context? Because women don't just take a child and take their stuff and leave in the middle of the night. Like, there's more to the story. So, sir, what did you do? And it might be rage bait. You're right. But it's nice to see people in the comments holding them accountable and being like, if you think you're about to get empathy for posting this, that is not what's going to happen. We are just going to pile on about what did you do to make her leave.
Yeah. 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 That guy was trying really hard to get a lot of people on his side. And yeah, definitely backfired.
There's another example, I think, that speaks to this and that's very similar, where Zach Bryan and his ex, Brianna Chicken Fry, had like a very public breakup last year. I don't even listen to country music, but I was like hearing about it and it was all over podcasts that I was listening to. So she came out very publicly and said that the relationship had been emotionally abusive and said that he tried to make her sign an NDA and she refused. And within the span of, I think, maybe a year, he got married to someone else. And his marriage post was a picture of him and his bride. And the caption was tougher than the rest. So everyone went crazy because they're like, why would your caption about your bride be about your exes?
Yeah. Oh, gosh. That's like such a public my exes are crazy claim.
Yep.
And I think that anybody who says my exes were crazy, that's like a massive red flag that they aren't seeing any of their own part. Yikes. Is there a follow-up? Are they still together or did that crash and burn? Like, what happened?
I didn't see anything after that. This was also like, I think just within the last couple of weeks that he got married and posted this. So it's relatively new, but everybody was like, I cannot believe your caption would not be about singing praises to your new bride, but rather making an inference that none of your exes could handle how abusive you are effectively, that this one's tougher than the rest. Like, I know if I married someone and that was their caption, that would be a seed planted in my subconscious that would then like flourish into, oh my God, he hates me.
Yeah. We don't have to get too off track, but have you ever heard of that show? I think it was a movie on Netflix, The Most Hated Man on the Internet.
I've heard of it. I don't think I watched it.
Okay. It's pretty dark, but it's about this guy, really, really, really bad guy. And he was really manipulative and there were women in his life and he took advantage of them and all this. But they interviewed one of the women who was one of his victims. And she speaks so eloquently about what happens when you're with a guy who is really kind of hateful, talks trash on other people, it has really challenging relationships with other people, and then treats you well. It creates this dynamic of totally like, oh, wow, you're the only worthy one. You're the best. You're pedestalized. But also this fear that if you were to fall out of the good graces, then you know how they treat other people and you know that you're going to be next, which is a really, really toxic and terrible situation. And I wonder if that's the sort of thing that might be happening.
It's a really good theory because it kind of plays into why certain women get obsessed with serial killers and like start writing them letters in jail. It's that kind of, oh, well, he's so dangerous, but I'm the exception. It's this like magical thinking that you're going to be special because you're going to put yourself in such a dangerous position and you expect to be the exception. And it's like, you probably won't be.
Right. For now, you might be the exception, but yeah, got to pay attention to patterns.
I wanted to talk to you about, because before you said that it's called weaponized incompetence, there wasn't like language for it. And what does having language for it mean to women? And why is it such a dangerous and toxic concept?
Yeah. So weaponized incompetence is one of those words or one of those phrases where when you hear it, you know, like the definition is baked in. I'm sure everyone who hears it goes, oh, yeah, I can think of 5 examples that I've had in my life, not always with a romantic partner. But I think weaponized incompetence as a term is so powerful because so many people have been on the receiving end of it. And the whole power of weaponized incompetence is the inconsistency and questioning it causes. And so, for example, if a partner consistently does a really bad job at the laundry or doesn't get to the laundry or says like, you know, I would have done it. I just didn't know what you want. Like if you had anything special in there that you didn't want me to wash, or if they are dodging a responsibility or doing a bad job consistently, but they don't do that kind of thing outside of the home, or they're very successful in tasks like that, they're a self-starter, whatever, in other ways, and they're failing at this thing that is seemingly pretty simple, and you're telling them, hey, this is becoming an issue, it's real confusing to have somebody who says they love you and care about you, to have them behave that way. And giving what seems on the surface as like excuses that could possibly be reasonable. And it just causes all this conflict and confusion, and you have to figure out what is going on there. And, having to ask yourself, like, are they doing this to me on purpose? Like, this makes no sense. Like, this is really stressing me out. I'm overwhelmed. My clothes are shrunken. Like, we're arguing about this. Would the person who loves me really be behaving this way on purpose, willfully? And, I'm a jerk now if I claim that they're doing this on purpose? Having a term and having a way to describe what it probably is like, it's like a concrete example that this is a real behavior that people really do. And once you can start to label things, like in those viral videos, it's been great to see it in the last couple of years move into this very publicly used term, and we can spot it. People in the comment section, even if you might be questioning yourself, can call it out.
Right.
Or you might see, oh, wow, this viral video shows something I've actually experienced before and was told that I was overreacting. Other people are calling that weaponized incompetence. Oh, what a relief that I'm not crazy. This is very much something I've experienced. It's like really empowering and validating.
It absolutely is. And that's the value of language. And if someone recognizes that that's what's going on in their relationship, because I've also experienced it outside of romantic relationships, I've experienced it in friendships, and thankfully in safe ones where I was able to call it out. And my friend that was doing it to me, her response was, oh, well, it felt like you like doing these kinds of things. So that's why I ask you if you know how long it's going to take me to get somewhere, even though I can Google it myself. Like, she thought she was being helpful as far as like love language for me or whatever. But if someone's experiencing that in a marriage and it's clear that it's weaponized incompetence and not just regular incompetence, what is a good way to approach bringing that up?
I really appreciate that you point out the friend conversation. How did you bring that up when it was you?
I think it's so funny because it's like one of my best friends, and she is so similar to my mom, who also grew up doing that to me, being like, oh, can you go ask the person that works at this grocery store what aisle the flour is in? And I'm like, why can't you ask? And some of it is shyness, but with my friend, she was doing it to me, and we were like living together too. So she was just like, always being like, oh, well, I'm very type A. So let me preface with that. And I know, details of things. I go out of my way to figure out details of things if we're making a plan. So when she would be doing it to me, asking logistical questions that she could figure out just as easily as I could, something like Googling how long it'll take to drive somewhere, I was like, hey, you could do that too. Why do you ask me? And her response was, well, I feel like you like knowing that stuff. Like she thought it was fun for me, that I get enjoyment because I'm type A of doing the figuring out of logistics and stuff. So it was like a very easy conversation with her, and there wasn't any friction at all. And we have like such a emotionally mature and safe friendship that we can like call those things out. But I know not everybody is in that space to address it the way I did.
That's great. And so I think that example is so important because I believe that weaponized incompetence is often it's a pattern of harm. And when the harm is named and or obvious, and then the behavior continues, that's when like any expert in abuse or domestic violence will tell you that that would fit under the description, a pattern of harm. Oftentimes weaponized incompetence creates a situation of control or power over someone else because it removes options. Like if they're not going to do the thing, you have to do the thing. And if you call it out, instead of an emotionally mature reaction, oftentimes there's stonewalling, there's lashing out, defensiveness, silent treatment, accusations, deflection. And so it discourages the party from bringing stuff up in the future. And again, it like snowballs into this really toxic, emotionally abusive, very harmful dynamic. So anytime, like I get this question all the time, how do you confront this or how do you change it? And ultimately, if you name it and it doesn't change, no amount of explaining or giving more examples or trying on your end is going to get them to change. And so I think, again, naming it for what it is and recognizing that you can only impact yourself. You can only change your own behavior. Reflecting on, is this a pattern of harm? And what are you okay with? And is there a way for you to maybe make a safe exit plan? And it's interesting, I think, for a lot of people to think like, oh, it's just the dishes. Like, oh, it's just the laundry. Like they're just doing a bad job at the laundry. And I think it's interesting what you said about the directions, or it's just asking someone at the grocery store. It's not about that one thing. Because sometimes, like I would prefer not to have to order in the drive-thru. I don't know why I panic. And it's like, I could do it on my own and like I can do it. It's fine. I can do it. But there's also a skill difference and a comfort difference. And if my husband can do it, I would prefer that he order it. I would prefer that he order in the drive-thru and not me. That's not weaponized incompetence because I'm not costing him anything. Mm-hmm. If he's got a sore throat, I'm not going to make him do it. If he says, hey, this is really bothering me, I'm going to say, oh, okay, yes, I don't want it to cost you. But when the harm is named and it continues, or there is deflection, there's an emotional cost, or sometimes like if a task is sabotaged, a physical cost, that's toxic. It's harmful. And a lot of people would call that abusive. And you can't convince somebody to not abuse you.
Right. Yeah, that's the bottom line, is it does lead to abusive behavior, especially if you have one conversation about it and it doesn't change, it continues to be perpetrated. It also ends up adding to what now is being called women's invisible labor. And it's not as harmless as like, oh, can you Google Maps this. It's always something bigger. It's always childcare and picking up kids from daycare and school. And then you also have to make dinner. And then you also have to do laundry and do every household chore. And we're living in a society where women are working too. They're not even stay-at-home moms. So it's like this insane imbalance that just historically people have been okay with, because historically women did stay home, and like that also doesn't mean she has to do 1,000% of the household labor, but it has turned into this like weird imbalance where finally women are coming to terms with, oh, we have all this invisible labor, and it is literally labor. Like there are statistics to show that it's like 80 hours of work for us, 90 hours of work for us. Like it takes its toll. Meanwhile, the cliche of he comes home from work and kicks his shoes up and drinks a beer in front of like the football game. Like it's not fair.
It's not fair. And it's really interesting when you name it, because this is often a super high conflict imbalance that happens in households. And there is sometimes dodging the conversation or dodging accountability by just like pretending you don't see it, or like, just tell me what to do and I'll help, which is then, of course, offloading all of the decision making, all of the asking, the emotional work of being like, okay, when am I going to bring this up? How am I going to bring this up? It's just putting it on the other party, which again is putting work on them. But in this conflict, one party is totally overwhelmed with it all. And the other party is saying, what's the big deal? Like, it's not a big deal. If it wasn't a big deal, then you would just do it.
Right.
If it's not a big deal, let's just share it equitably. Like, why are you digging your heels in? Because it actually is a big deal, because it is work that matters. Yeah, it's really good. I love seeing conversations about invisible labor, domestic labor, care work, all of that, because it is the most essential labor. Without it, we cease to exist.
Absolutely. How do we start a relationship in the beginning on a more equitable base?
That's a great question. I really believe that it has to do with intention, and acknowledgement. And again, this is kind of the bad news, is that you aren't going to be able to convince somebody to suddenly care about something if they don't. So I think even in my friendships, regardless of, any kind of relationships I enter into, the people that I connect with, I want them to be curious people and be people who are always seeking to understand. And so I think that is a really interesting green flag to look out for, is somebody who is curious, who notices things. And because when you have a collaborative life together, even, with your roommate, with your best friend, with your family, what it means is thinking about the collective, thinking about your needs, my needs, your preferences, my preferences, and then making thoughtful and considerate decisions that aren't always 100% perfect, but they are thoughtful. I think that is, I know for sure those are skills we need to practice and develop. But if you have one conversation about it, or you say, oh, hey, I have this book by Laura Danger. It's called No More Mediocre. She talks about these things. And they don't join you in that. That's a pretty good sign that that's what you're signing up for. But like, let's say tiny nugget of hope. I'll give you a little nugget of hope. If you want to practice these skills, picking something such as a trip, a full day date, like picking out a new couch for a living room. If you can approach one project as a group and do the things together, checking your budget, researching for 30 minutes at night on the couch, like doing that invisible work and recognizing and noticing it and not assuming any of it without addressing it and acknowledging it, either of you, like really focus on acknowledging and noticing it. Do one thing, planning and executing from start to finish totally together. And that's like a good way to flex those muscles and start those positive habits. Because I say that the other party has to be willing, but it doesn't mean they have to be on the same page as you or as practiced or as skilled. They just have to be on board.
Mm-hmm. I love that. That's such a solid, easy little screening process to put forth at the beginning of a relationship, especially a romantic relationship. And another one that I really like is see what someone's reaction is to you saying no to something early on, because that's a big way to gauge how they're going to behave later on too. But the task, like, I love that. Plan a little trip or plan an all-day date and just see how someone is. And if it's kind of not to your liking, see what their response is to you being like, oh, let me delegate this to you. Would you mind doing it? Like, delegate a little task and see what the feedback is, and let it show you who they are.
Yeah, I think that we unfortunately undervalue how important it is to know how to do, the basic admin work of life. Ultimately, again, is like that's the core work of having a shared life together. So if you can't figure out how to do the chores in a balanced way, and if you can't adapt when one of you has like massive tests happening, or the other party has like, a parent who is ill, if you can't then shift into each other's roles or ebb and flow or adjust your budget when someone loses their job, if you can't roll with the punches in a way that is like aware and reactive with those daily tasks, it's always going to fall to one person, and that's going to burn the relationship out ultimately.
1,000%. I really like how, I don't know if you've heard Brene Brown talk about it, but she talks about, if we're supposed to be bringing in 100% every day, sometimes I'm down bad and I only have 5% and I need to go to my partner and be like, can you bring 95 today?
Mm-hmm. Right. Sometimes my 5% is my 100%. Mm-hmm. So that's just being human. It's just humanity.
It is. Are there any crazy videos that you've been sent recently that were like super egregious?
Oh boy. Constantly. Here's an example of one I recently saw. Family accounts. I don't love family accounts.
Me neither.
But what I saw was, it was mom and a dad and a couple of kids, and the dad's got the phone and he comes in talking at them and he films his feet and he's kicking clothes out of the way. And he's like, oh, this is war. And he goes on a rant and he's like, how is it that all I see on the floor here is my clothes? Did you go through the laundry and pick out all of my clothing and leave it on the ground? And she's like, yeah, I did. And they have this very real conversation, but they're laughing while they do it. And I think that this falls under the category of that other video we were talking about, where she says to him, you and I both have a day off today. You and I both work the exact same job, the exact same hours, and we do not do the exact same amount of work at home. And he's like, what? Are you saying I'm doing nothing? I do stuff. I take the kids to school. And she goes, I answer all the emails. I pack all the lunches. I did all the grocery shopping. I got them up. I got them dressed. I did their hair. I did everything. You drove them there. And he's laughing and he's like, is no one going to stand up for me?
Not anymore.
Right. And it's so interesting. So they're laughing and they post this online and they have the caption of, something like, oh, it's war now. And people were rightfully calling this out in the comments. Some people were like, oh, marriage, don't we know? Oh, don't we all know this? And also kind of laughing along. But I am so heartened that it seems like there is a shift where people, again, are seeing this and going, no, I've been them. And I know how much it is terrible. And I know how awful it is. And she's right. Like, she's fully right here. It's not funny. What? So I really appreciate that it was being called out. But I see those videos still. And I'm always questioning, like, why the heck? Why would you put this online? Aren't you embarrassed? And it's no, they're not.
I hope that they take it in as feedback from the comments of, it's kind of like when I think the kids say, like, when you're getting bodied in the comments, where it's like you have way more comments than you have likes, and that's your red flag that you said something
ratioed.
Like, yeah, ratioed. That's what the word is.
Yes. yes, absolutely. I do. And even if that family, like, I've seen other families, because it gets a ton of engagement and you end up getting a ton of money, and sometimes that's better than people having a positive opinion of you. At least the comment section, as an observer, if you're saying, if you might have thought, oh, this is so relatable, this is funny because it's really relatable, haha, I've been there, laugh so I don't cry. If that is you showing up to that video and you click on the comments and you see everyone else going, whoa, hold it, that's not okay. I'm hoping that there are people out there observing that and going, oh, maybe it's not okay. And we can start to shift the culture. So that's hopefully that is the silver lining of those.
That's a good hope to have. What other, what mediocre behaviors did you figure out when you were putting together the book that people need to be on the lookout for?
I would say, so weaponized incompetence is definitely like totally toxic, awful. But there is the close cousin, the murky cousin, is sort of the setup that so many of us end up in, and possibly got the couple in that video into that dynamic, is the nag paradox of the just tell me what to do. And then that turns into don't tell me what to do. And that is like the give me a honey-do list. That's a very common type of relationship dynamic where it seems like it would be 50-50, like you direct and I'm directed, but it's totally imbalanced with the cognitive load, with the mental load. So I think just like on its face that is a setup for burnout and for always having this friction and this tension. And that's really my goal, is to look at that default dynamic we've been sold and say, okay, this is not feeling good. How could we shift that to the more collaborative approach, the more caring, the more thoughtful, conscientious way of treating each other? And I want to move toward that, like the picking out the couch or planning something together, and having that be the default approach.
Is there a way to initiate that conversation?
I would say, I think that reflecting on what is really hurting in your relationship, or like what feels really painful. Do you feel lonely? Are you stretched too thin? You've lost touch with your hobbies. You're avoiding talking about tough things, so you're feeling, shut down. If you can address that, you're going to get the opposite. So you're going to feel more connected. You're going to feel more empowered. I think that approaching your partner and saying, hey, we continue to have the same conflicts over these things. You and I are both walking away feeling blank. Both of us are obviously having a bad time about this. What can we do to get ahead of it? And it's just opening the door and acknowledging, like, it's not just me, even if I'm constantly initiating this conversation. I would guess that you are also pushing down a lot of resentment and probably avoiding. And neither of us are feeling good about that. Like, I want a quality life with you. I want to do life with you. This is not the kind of dynamic I want to be in for a long time. I want you to feel good. I want to feel good. How can we adjust? Because it's possible. It's fully 100% possible. It just takes some creativity.
That's such a positive and digestible way to go about it. I love that so much.
And I've seen it work. I've seen it like fully 100%. I stand by that.
Amazing. Well, Laura Danger, if people want to learn more about what you're doing, please plug your book and where people can find you.
Awesome. So you can find me. A lot of my links and everything are on lauradanger.com. I have posts on Instagram. My handle is at thatdarnchat, all one word. And my book, No More Mediocre, is available wherever you get books and also audio. So, you can do it while you're hanging out on a walk, whatever. But wherever you get books, you can get No More Mediocre.
Amazing. Thank you so much for talking to me today.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Bye.